Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News, this show that may or may not be 5 minutes. Before we get started on the story that I wanted to talk about, let's talk about the story everyone else is talking about. Today at 3 a.m., Twitch posted that it's basically going to be taking more money from the top 1% of streamers. It's what they said was going to happen a few months ago. We covered it back then, and it looks like now they're actually doing it. So I figured I would just take this time, while everyone's outraged, to just remind you that corporations do not care about you. They only care about money and getting more money. They fundamentally believe that if you were to quit tomorrow, there would be 1,000, 1,000,000 people waiting to take your spot because they want the money that you are giving up now because you're sticking it to the man. And honestly, they think you're replaceable. And in the culture we have today of Twitch and streaming, I think most streamers understand they're replaceable, which is why they stream so much, because they fear if they leave for a day or a week or a month, you'll just go watch someone else. And remember, YouTube did this thing years ago. This is just old hat. If you want to know why I'm cynical about it, because I've watched it happen, and I know it's going to happen again on some other platform, when there's lots of money involved, they don't really want you to have all that, right? There's some board of directors somewhere that's like, but what if we had it? While we're on the subject of business and gaming, I want to talk about this opinion piece over in the Washington Post about video games and China, titled, "China is Coming for Video Games. Companies and players should be wary." The minute I read this, I was like, I gotta do an episode on this at some point. Fans of video games should pay heed to the fate of big Hollywood studios, which first ceded creative control to Chinese censors in pursuit of box office gold, and then found themselves floundering when China largely closed its borders to Hollywood products, as China's government-allied businesses acquire a larger stake in the global gaming industry. He then goes on to mention and describe companies like Tencent or NetEase, while at the same time comparing them to Embracer Group. He goes on to say, but there is a qualitative difference between a Swedish firm such as Embracer Group amassing a video game empire and a company under the thumb of the CCP doing the same. The CCP being the Chinese Communist Party, and how maybe appeasing them to get money to fund games is not the smartest thing to do. Admittedly, this isn't just a Chinese problem. There are crazy censorship laws all over the world. I know that for many of you in Australia, you complain all the time about the censorship of games there. It's just that in China, they are dumping tons and tons and tons of money into the gaming world and buying up companies and buying up games, and that could be a problem. Because this isn't anything new. I feel like most of us understand the control some governments, especially China, for example, has over everything in its country. And games are no different. If you're a longtime World of Warcraft player like myself, you've definitely heard the stories and seen the screenshots of the removal of bones from the game to get past Chinese censors, that kind of thing. The article even brings up how in the movie Top Gun Maverick, which, by the way, loved it, Tom Cruise's character had patches on his jacket signaling an alliance with Japan and Taiwan, but they were removed since Tencent was footing the bill. But after a massive public outcry, they were brought back, and Tencent left the project in order to avoid angering the government. Going back to Blizzard and NetEase, we saw the same thing when Blizzard had some sassy tweets about the Chinese government, and then suddenly there were some issues with Diablo Immortal in China. The opinion piece goes on to say, China wants games to be viewed not as an art form to be excelled at, but a product to be homogenized. Hence the nation's efforts to bring video games under the sway of the International Organization for Standardization. The Swedish games industry, a trade group, pushed back hard against this effort. As spokesperson Per Strömbäck told Foreign Policy, video games are art. Regulating them in the same manner as light bulbs would curtail the creator's freedom. The opinion piece continues on with more of, I don't use TikTok and this is why, and that kind of stuff. And I get the idea of the piece that it's, hey, be wary if you do business in China because the government will interfere with whatever business you're doing. However, I feel like a big takeaway from all of this should be, who are these businesses deciding that that's fine, and as long as we make money, it doesn't matter, and they more adopt the, Eastern style of gaming where it's grinds and microtransactions and that kind of thing versus, just creating a good, fun game. And I feel like that's the people we should be talking to. And those are the people we should be addressing, the people that are running the businesses, because China's going to do what China do, and they kind of always have. And so it's the businesses that have to decide whether they want to deal there. And so far, it seems that they all agree, like, yeah, there's 1 billion people, and we're going to tap into that market and we're going to take the chance. You know, maybe the question should be, what kind of company do you want to support? Rather than, oh, watch out, gamers for China. Just a thought. Speaking of support, there we go. Thank you to everyone who supports me over on patreon.com/Jesse Cox. You're amazing. We do so much fun stuff over there, and you're helping me right now formulate what to do for Coxtober, which is coming very soon. So if you want to be in on that, this is the month to do it. And you can do so with Carl Estes, Kittens Bubble, and Chris Lawrence. That's it for the show. I'll see y'all tomorrow with another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News.